Okay, and welcome back to the final episode on this. I have been building, I've been filming, and I lost track of everything, so I'm just going to go with where I am right now. As you can see, I have the wings on, I have the horizontal stabilizers on, they are glued on, and all the front landing gear is all glued on. You can see those little doors there. The front rectangle there that you can see and those two little doors was all one piece. What they did is when they say to put it on, they say to cut it into three and make this setup from it. There were some scored lines for me to run across, but yeah, it's set up to be easily displayed as in flight and difficultly done to display with the landing gear down. Now this is all glued on up here, but this stuff here is just sitting there right now. I haven't glued it on because I'm checking alignments and so on. And I tell you what, that stuff was hard to, this is my first airplane, of course, and I was not, not really adept into my gosh, basically this stuff is really small. And things are not going to completely line up, I can tell. As you can see there, part of that support is not necessarily going to fit into its hole and so on, but to get it to line up the way it's supposed to, get it to set right and set level, I'm going to have to, tweak it a little bit just to make sure. But I'm about to glue those on, and then right after that I'll be gluing the engines on. But I wanted to show something. Hold on a second. Let me flip this over. By the way, I discovered this for airplanes. I think probably for all airplanes. I think that egg carton is going to be a really good holder. So that's a little tip that I discovered. So let me flip this over. I want to show you something on the alignments. Okay, here's a bit of a look at what I was wanting to show. Now the wings don't necessarily slip into exactly the right alignment, meaning the right angle. As you can see there, I've got the right angle, but let me try to do a focus thingy. There we go. I've got the right angle on there, but that's not the way they were when you just put it in. You basically glue it, and then you move it a little bit, and you hold it exactly where it's supposed to be, and then do a lot of hoping, and then you can have it lined up. But if you just stick the wings in and just glue them, they're going to be all different angles and kind of a mess. So I just wanted to show that. Okay, moving on, we're going to glue the landing gear on, and that will be the next scene. It'll look pretty much the same thing. Okay. Okay, so here's a look at how I'm gluing the landing gear on. As I was just talking about the alignments, got to make sure that it sets completely level. So I have put, of course, 3 points make a plane. So this being completely flat, this CD jacket, this should work. I'm able to glue, of course the front one was glued on already, and then I just glued the back two on, and then I adjusted them just a little bit to make sure that they're completely flush there. I don't know how far it's going to let me zoom. See there? Completely perfect there, and completely perfect there. Lined up with the front, the nose piece right there. Come on. My camera, I'm hoping it'll do it. Anyway, you get the idea. And so this is gluing. Now I'm using crazy glue, not crazy glue, super glue. The Bob Smith stuff. Let's see if I can actually just peek over there to see the super glue. Yeah, there it is. That stuff. The gold, the super gold. Something that I'm discovering here with the airplane build as opposed to model cars is that you need stronger bonds. I was having pieces of the landing gear break off, and I could tell that you needed a really strong, stiff bond on the wings to make sure they stay in place, and they sure are. Boy, that stuff is really, really, really strong. So anyway, I'll let this set up for a bit, and then we'll flip it over and see if it's setting level. Okay, so here's where we're at. It looks like it is sitting, well, yeah, here we go. Looks like it is sitting nice and level there. We'll get a close-up there to prove that. And it's also not wheeling, meaning that I weighted the front end somehow. I can't remember what I did. But, oh yeah, there's screws in there. I glued some screws in there. But you see the landing gear there is sitting nice and level. And the front end is staying on the ground, which is good. And so this is a success. It's sitting pretty nice there, must say. Which is a relief, because like I say, this is my first airplane, and if you're not paying attention to those sort of things, your wings will be all different angles, and your landing gear will be different angles, and it'll be sitting like sideways and so on. So just this is making me happy. Anyway, at this point, I don't see any reason not to glue the engines on. So let me flip it over again and glue them on. Okay, here we go. We've got the engines on. And they are glued on there, so it's permanent. And it's really starting to look like something. Look at that. Now I brought out the belly piece here. That little piece there. Wow, that's overexposed. Hold on. Whoa. Okay, there we go. So that belly piece, of course, fits in right there. I just want to make sure I didn't put it in before I'm sure that I don't have to get in there for anything. I'm not going to glue it in. It pressure fits in really tight, so that's all I'm going to do there. So in a pinch, it will be removable, but I've had it in there before, and it's really hard to get it out of there because it fits in really tight. But right now I'm going to flip it over. Well, right now I'm actually, no, I'm not going to put that belly piece in yet. I'm going to flip it over and see how it's setting with the engines, and that'll be the next scene. And there it is. So it's sitting nice and level. Let me see if I can look at an alignment shot here. I think we are good on setting level. Maybe those horizontal stabilizers back there are off by a little bit, but I'm accepting that. So the engines are hanging nice. It's setting pretty darn good. Happy with that. And so I'll take a brief look at the directions, but I think that we're to the point where it's all assembled and we just need to put on a whole bunch of decals. I'll just confirm that, and then I'll bring the decals out and take a look at that. Get ready to do that. Alright, so here is a look at the belly piece in. Try to get above it and shoot downward. So that looks pretty good. As you can see, those little stabilizers, those gusset supports, are not exactly in their holes where they're supposed to be in there, and on this one too. And they're not going to be because of the way you have to align the landing gear so that it sits level. It can be done, but that's going to be trickier than I want to get into right now. So it's just going to kind of look like that. I don't think anybody would notice if I wasn't saying it. So that's the way that's going to look. And so got the belly piece in, and I'm looking through the instructions, and I'm convinced that that is all the pieces. So it is completely assembled and ready for decals. I just wanted to show you quick, as I was going through the instructions, remember that piece I was talking about? It fits in the nose. There it is right there. So if it's in flight, that is the closed door front landing gear piece. But if you want to display it with the landing gear in there, they tell you to do this. Cut it into 3 pieces. See there? And that's what I did. It was tiny, but I got it done. There it is right there. And that just kind of surprised me, and I wanted to share that. Anyway, so I'll go get the decals and we'll get started on that. Okay, and so here are the decals. I had, on the unboxing, I had shown these super up close with my other camera. This camera's not going to quite get up that close, but we can take a quick peek here. And these are tiny, tiny. I put this little jar of paint out here that everybody knows the scale of that. Look how small these decals are. And so this is going to be a little bit of a challenge. I like doing decals. Really, really like it, but wow. We'll see how I feel about decals after these. Anyway, for the side windows, this is pretty neat. If you look at the film there, you take the whole strip out. Now there's no windows in there, no little plastic windows. So the film of the decal itself becomes the window. I've never done that, never seen that. A little scared of that. But over here I wanted to show, I mean, the detail is just insane on this. The detail is just incredible. And what's great is that the silver paint is shiny. Silver ink on this. But here, look at this on the cockpit windows. I was really worried about painting the frames on that, but it looks like it's on a decal. Now, whether or not that actually lines up properly is unknown at this point, but why not? I'll put it on there and we'll see what that looks like. So anyway, yeah, it's going to be just a few seconds until you guys see all the decals on there, but it's probably going to be a few days worth of decaling for me, because I only have like about an hour in the early morning before we send the kids off to school and everything, and then I have to get to work. But the next scene should be this plane with those decals on it. That should be really neat. Okay. Okay, and there it is. Now that was a lot of decals. Well, I guess it wasn't really. But they were tiny, tiny, tiny decals. And let's see where to start. So yeah, let's start with these window decals. As you can imagine, it was a little bit difficult to get those lined up. It wasn't one big long strip, it was 2 strips. But still, even at that, you can see they're not all completely lined up on their openings. Actually, this side's looking pretty good. But now, speaking of that, let me see if I can get it at the right angle here. Try to angle it up to the... let's see if we're going to be able to do that. Why isn't it working? Okay. Up to the... I was hoping to be able to show the windows reflecting. Maybe if I do like, there we go. See there? So that is what clear decal looks like over the openings, and I think it looks pretty accurate. They're kind of sunken in there. Hard to do this. I guess you get the idea. A really good look at it, because they kind of sink in there and look like, there's one that's a little wrinkly, huh? But so on. Let me, before that gets too roller coastery, Anyway, the rest of them, these are really, really, really good decals. There's the ones on the cockpit. If you remember, when we were talking about, where's my pointer? There we go. Okay, this section back here, where did it go? Right here. This little surround here is supposed to be painted white. And I still have a chance to do that because this is not glued in. It's just pressure fitted in. There wasn't a really good reason to glue it in. But right around this window here is supposed to be painted white. So I may go in there maybe from the opposite side and paint it white. But otherwise, like the front of the windshield there, the decal did the trick there. Really happy with that. I did not put all the decals on. Like the ones on the wings, I'd certainly put these little escape route thingies on there, but there was the big long lines on the wings, and as you can see, there's one right there in my pile of decals. As soon as I put it on, I didn't like it. Just did not like the way that looks, so I left those on. I'll give you a look at the ones that I did give up on. Decided not to put on because didn't like the way they were looking, or they were too small, or they were highlighting something that I didn't think needed to be highlighted or should be highlighted, and so on. And in a moment I'll flip this over to show you those decals on the belly. They look pretty good. But going on to the tail here, if you remember when I was showing the decal sheet, let me try to bring this around. You see it look a little rough there. Okay, so the tail, this is all a decal. All that blue and the emblem, that is all a decal. Let me bring it around a little more. But the decal did not, it was bigger than the tail for a good reason, I'm sure, to get it to wrap around, but it didn't wrap around very well, and so basically what you had was decal hanging off into space there, and I had to trim it. And when I trimmed it, of course this tail is painted white. When I trimmed it, there was a gap the size of the Grand Canyon. And if you're wondering what happened on the top here, which I cannot seem to get it to focus on, yeah, I turned it over onto a paper towel. I thought it was dry. It wasn't quite dry. And so I've got some paper towels stuck to the top there. See there? But so what I did was I had a little bit of the decal paper left. There's this little strip that there was on the decal sheet. Don't know what it was for, but I used that to match the paint, and I just mixed up some paint, just blue with some black added until it matched, and then I painted the seam. So that may look a little rough. But it is what it is. Gotta do it. Let's see if I can. Hopefully you can see that. You know, it looks a little rough, little thick there, but it's better than a big white gap. And so I was able to do that. Let me flip this over, and I'll be right back. No, I mean, I can just flip it over. So, okay. That way if I drop it, it'll be caught on film. There we go. Okay, so there's the belly decals. And that belly piece, you can see it kind of sticking up there, that whole big piece. I did not glue that in either, just in case I ever have to go back in there. But the landing gear, you know, it dried straight. The plane sits nice and level. What else was I going to show? Okay, there's the nose. Oh, there's some there are some tiny decals on that nose door. Those are two separate decals. The CC and the color are separate. Tiny, tiny, tiny stuff. I mean, that is small, guys. Look, let me bring in my... This is the drive shaft, 1/25th scale drive shaft. Tiny, tiny, tiny. And so, what else? I mean, what else can you really say? This was my first airplane, and I must say I'm happy with it. I had tried airplanes a couple of times before and failed very miserably. And this proves that I can do it. So now that I've proved that I can do it, I'll take a break from airplanes for a while. I do have one other airplane. I think you guys remember seeing it, the ATR 42. But that one's not, I'm not going to build that one for probably a year. It might be fun to bring an airplane back out, but mostly going back to cars. And be quite a bit happier with cars because they make a lot more sense to me. But I did build an airplane, and I'm happy with it. I appreciate y'all watching, and look forward to more. See ya.